Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Surfer Horizon, a place where we experience and enjoy the difficult ways in a teenager's life to thrive. On this episode with me, I have Alea Motwane. She's a musician who has produced original songs and has performed in multiple concerts. She is someone who doesn't shy away from speaking her heart on her social media platforms. She's a true inspiration to young girls out there who are raising their voices. Alea is currently amplifying people's needs in the time of COVID. Today, we are going to talk to her about insecurities, self love, and so much, so many more things. Welcome to the Surf of Horizon, Alaya.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so Alaya, as a teenager, one obviously has a ton of insecurities of their own, and you have battled with yourself every single day to fight. How do you deal with your insecurities, or have you reached a point in your life where you feel secure with yourself?
So for me, I've kind of grown up online because I started putting myself on the internet at the age of 10 with my singing videos and covers and stuff like that. So I was always kind of like my parents told me like, okay, you're gonna be online. And I knew I've seen enough videos to know that even at a young age, you being online, you're gonna get hate. Luckily for me, something that I have a lot of confidence in myself, and I do have people who kind of pinpoint things about me that I know aren't really perfect, but I kind of choose to see beyond that because I choose to look at the parts of me that are beautiful. And also, something for me that I personally believe is that I know it's very easy to say this, but genuinely everyone is so beautiful in their own way. And for me, even when I talk to my friends, like as a teenager, you tend to see a lot of people where you're like, are they good looking? Are they not? And for me, I genuinely believe, like I've spoken to my friends about this, I genuinely believe that if you have a good heart, you're automatically beautiful, and it's hard to see any flaws in you when you're like that. And I do feel like I have reached some sort of a point in my life where I do believe like my insecurities don't define me at all. And I kind of tend to see beyond that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it. And we live in a society full of judgments, and there's going to be always someone who's unhappy with you and what you're doing, right? And who's going to try to pull you down every single day. And since you're a social media personality, you face these trolls and negative comments every single day. And yes, you said that like you've been there since like at a young age. But how do you deal with such trolls? Because sometimes they do get to your head, and when you're not in a good mood, right?
So I completely agree. Social media trolling is one of the biggest reasons why all adults are like telling their children to stay off social media and why it's such a toxic environment. But for me, I feel like in my life, in I've had enough personal experiences with people not online, kind of not thinking that I would make anything out of me being on social media. I've had a lot of people who've doubted me in my life because it's very different. Like I know now it's a very common thing, but when I started at the age of 10, a lot of people, a lot of adults too were like, okay, why is she on social media at such a young age? And it was really frowned upon. So I've had enough like kind of negative feedback from people in my real life to like I don't really care what people online say about me. Plus I touch wood, my like we spoke about, my the things that people pinpoint about me online are very like specific small things that I'm like, okay, why do you even care? It's kind of those situations, like I'm like, the fact that someone online has so much time to like kind of look for that insecurity and point it out. Also, I kind of like, I touch wood, I don't get that much hate, but when I do, I go to their profiles and it's a fake account always. Like it's always like, like a random amount of letters, or it'll be some page with like which follows 1,000 people and has only 2 followers and like 40 posts, and I'm like, okay, this is obviously like a bot or something like that. So for me, like I'm just like looking at it like I'm brave enough to put myself on social media. I'm brave enough to put myself on a platform where I'm allowing, because I'm a public figure, I'm supposed to allow people to hate on me because I'm public, so that's the life that I've chosen. But it's weird to me that the people commenting on me are not brave enough to do that. So if they want to say something to me, they can come at me with their real accounts. But with fake accounts, it honestly couldn't face me at all.
Correct. And how important is it to keep yourself your number one priority? Because oftentimes we don't prioritize ourselves enough and give ourselves enough credit. So do you think it's high time that we start prioritizing ourselves?
I think that's so important. I think the biggest quote that I live by is self love spreads love. And I believe that because if it's very easy to be like, yeah, I love myself, and a lot of people say that you can't love yourself, you can't have anyone else love you until you love yourself. I don't think that's true. I think it's okay when we are kind of broken. It's very easy for people to be like, you can't have anyone else love you until you love yourself. And I don't believe in that, because I feel like if you are broken inside, or if you feel you need someone else to kind of help you bring up your self-esteem, that's perfectly okay, and you should allow someone else to do that. But at the same time, I think it's very important that we keep ourselves as our number one priority. Loving yourself and taking care of yourself is not selfish. It's called self-love for a reason. And you need to prioritize yourself, especially right now. The amount of stuff that all teenagers around India are going through, no one's, I mean, I'm sure you've seen online, no one's really like happy with what's going on around them because of the stuff they're seeing online and stuff. And even though like I am doing everything I can to like help people online and stuff, but it's really taking a toll on my mental health to see like people who need so much help. And at the same time, like as much as I'm helping them, as much as I can see a lot of people online helping them, you do need to like take a break to kind of take care of yourself. And it's definitely important that you love yourself, because if you don't love yourself, that hatred inside, that's what kind of causes bullying, right? Because the insecurity is within you, that's why you pick on other people. So even right now, even like with what's going on now, not just now, but like we should always kind of put ourselves first.
Yeah.
And people might think it's selfish, but I think it's just necessary.
I feel people think that it's selfish all the time. If I stand up for myself, they're gonna be like, "Can you please support other people and not just be selfish all the time?" Right?
Right.
It's a thick
So
line.
yeah, that makes sense, because like speaking of that, a lot of people, I remember, like not now, but like a couple of, I think 1 or 2 years ago, I'm the kind of person who is very like strong about my, like I have a lot of morals in my life, and a lot of people think that I have like beef with people and have issues with people. But for me, like I've spoken to my friends about this, I'm just the kind of person who, if someone like does something that upsets me or goes against the morals that I stand for to protect myself, and because I have these certain amount of standards that I tend to live by, I'll cut them off. And that's protecting myself, that's me putting myself first. But to other people, it may be like, oh, why are you being so dramatic, let everyone do whatever they want to. But that doesn't mean just because someone else is doing something wrong to me, just to not be dramatic, that doesn't mean that I can't stand up for myself.
Correct.
So I completely agree with what you said right now. Yeah.
And when it comes to self love or loving yourself, you obviously won't get up one day and you're gonna be like, "Oh, I love myself." There's a process, right? And do you think that you've achieved it? And like, how did the journey start? Like, what's the process?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think it's a lot to do with parenting, because my mom, I have by far the most supportive family. They always remind me every day, like, also it's not unrealistic, because my mom is very like, if she sees me in an outfit and she's like, you don't look good, she will tell me like, okay, you don't look good. You know what I mean? But it's very like, I feel like it's the family, like because I'm so secure at home and I know that my parents love me, and for me, my parents, like my family, like they're like my everything. And I have a very like strong sense of like I really trust them, like I tell them everything. So I feel like it starts from within, like it starts from home. And that's why I feel like I'm able to love myself, because the people around me 24/7, which is my family, reassure me every day that you are, you're worth it. And if I ever have an issue, I can go to them, which is why I feel like it's very important to kind of start that self-love from home, because if the people around you remind you of how great you are, and not in an unrealistic way again, not like constantly praising, but kind of remind you that you are worth it and what you're doing is good and you deserve to be loved, even if you do something that might like even if you make a mistake in life, to have that reassurance with people around you at home. I feel like that's why I kind of like have reached the point of self-love, because I'm reassured that I'm worth it. And especially at a young age, you need that, because at the age of like 10 and 11, you don't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know what
I
I
think
mean?
parents should open the doors also, right? Like, I
So,
think something happens to me, I know like my mom's the first person to go to, right?
right.
If like there are so many people the parents are going to be like, oh, like let's just shy away from talking about this subject, which is so wrong. I feel it's
Totally.
like your
Yeah.
first friend, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I completely agree.
Like as teenagers, you're always trying to fit in and be cool, and in order to do that, you lose on being kind, which I think is very sad. And the world needs more kindness, right? So how important is it to be kind? Like when you're trying to fit in, when you're trying to be cool and all, you forget on like being kind, which is so wrong. I feel.
I completely agree. Like there's a lot of pressure, and I feel like in the generations above us, peer pressure is like, oh, drink and oh, do this. But honestly, if you think about it, like I don't think I've ever been to a party where my friends are like forcing me to drink or something like that. I feel like it's more like the mentality of if someone's doing something that you find wrong, you might be carried away into doing that. Not like in terms of like drinking and smoking and things like that. I think peer pressure nowadays is more like forcing you to be cool and do something outside your comfort zone, which, yeah, you're right, might kind of remove the kindness from you. But I think being kind is so important in a teenager's life because we are all going through something that no one knows. Even your bestest friend in the world might not know that one thing about you that is a trigger point. So I feel like if no one knows everyone's story, because no one knows my story, no one knows your story, and you might not know the person you're talking to's story either. So I feel like being kind, you need to kind of put yourself in their shoes. Like, okay, if someone said this to me and I have this kind of small trigger point or a huge trigger point, you kind of need to be aware of that and kind of realize that everyone kind of has a story. And I know it's a very common thing that, oh, everyone has a story that you don't know about, but you guys don't like, a lot of people don't know how important that is to kind of remember
Yeah.
because, yeah, because I mean, that everyone has a trigger point. We all need to like kind of walk on eggshells around everyone, but at the same time, kind of know that being kind is kind of above everything.
Correct. And speaking of fitting in, one tends to forget themselves, right? And they change themselves. So do you feel that it's not important to fit in and you can just love yourself and be who you are and you can like
Yeah, I don't feel like I fit in for sure. Like 100% I've always been like, even my friends, whenever we talk about this, I feel like I'm the kind of person who's very like, I don't care if I don't fit in because these are my morals and this is what I believe in. And I think that also comes from self-love and self-confidence. So I feel like once you have that security within yourself, that if you kind of are kind of like doing something out of the box that other people in your generation or other of your friends aren't doing, you should be secure enough to be like, okay, this is what I'm doing, and that's fine. You don't need to fit in to every single. If everyone was the same, life would be genuinely so boring, and I think we need to remember that, right? So that's why I believe it's really not important to fit in. You need to do whatever you feel makes you confident and gives you that kind of sense of security.
yeah,
Because if everyone just does the same thing, then there's really no fun to anything.
yeah, I agree. You recently posted an IGTV on rape and how it's being too normal when it's the most disgusting thing ever. And you spoke about it, which was just amazing. And everybody nowadays has Instagram and other social media platforms. So do you feel that it's important to raise our voices and like oftentimes if it's me, I'll just be like, oh, but I have like a private account. What should I do? Even if I post a story, it's not gonna matter, right? So do you think like we should voice our opinions out?
Okay, so I've actually had a lot of conversations with my friends about this because a lot of the times they're like, wear a private account, what difference will it make? People think that this is a very stupid mentality that people have. People think that it's not people like us who are
Yeah.
doing things that are like sexual assault, or people think it's like the public or like people not from our school. There are so many cases in like that I know within my friends where girls have been harassed and they don't even realize it themselves. So
Yeah.
the private account thing I completely get, but the account mentality of I shouldn't do anything because I'm a private account, that's stupid because then people, because that's you saying in your head that, oh, it's not my friends who are doing this, when actually you have no idea how close sexual assault is to you.
Yeah.
And I remember having this conversation with my friends, and I was telling them, I was like, do you only think that it's the public who is doing this? Do you think no one out of the 600 followers that you have has experienced harassment? And I feel like constantly, like if you have a private account, but constantly like going through stories, going through posts and seeing like this, post about harassment and rape and sexual assault and why it's wrong, that's a constant reminder that there is so much going on and how you should do something to help.
Yeah. And like the whole mentality that it's not happening to us, it's just happening to like these underprivileged girls. I feel it's too wrong. I mean, it happens to I think every household. And we need to speak about it and we need to kind of say that it's not normal. Like you said, we just make it too normal. And when it's the most disgusting thing ever.
Yeah, 100%. A lot, like that's the thing. A lot of people think that it's not, it's just the public, and it's not. That's so not true. You guys have, I was telling my friends, I was like, you guys have no idea how close to home all of this is. And it Like out of this 500, 600 people who are following you, if you're a private account, there's 100% at least like 10 people who have felt
Yeah,
some sort of harassment or sexual assault. So it
correct.
does need to be spoken about a lot more, not just if you have a public account, because that's not just the public who's going through it. It's not just, it's within you guys too. It's within everyone.
And I feel like because of sexual harassment and all of that, our parents, like, if I want to wear like short clothes and just leave for a party, like my dad comes from a place of security, he's going to be like, but it's unsafe for you. I don't know what the girls are going to reply back. I mean, I get it, it's feminism and everything, but like my father is obviously worried about my safety, and it's just such a hard place to be in, right? One side you're just speaking about feminism, and the other side, if your parents are stopping you from going out because of he comes from like a safety point of view, right?
I completely agree. Like my father's very, very, very strict with me. And at the same time, I can't blame him. Like as much as I'm like, well, I'm a girl, I can do whatever I want, and we're all on that thing. But at the same time, like I can't blame him and be like, obviously from a dad's point of view, he's thinking like, dude, I don't want my daughter to go out there and have something happen to her. So I can't even argue at this point with him because I know he's right. Like I know that it's honestly not even the sad thing is that it's not even about the clothes. If you're a woman and you're on the road, even if you're wearing like 7 layers, something still can happen to you.
In broad daylight something can happen to you. It's just, yeah. And like as teenagers, sometimes because of age, you're not taken seriously. And has that ever happened to you that, just because of your age, people are not taking your opinion so seriously? It happens to me all the time, I feel.
Yeah. So if you want to know like a specific example, I write songs about like the two original songs that I've kind of released have been about love. And I remember having a couple adults coming to me and being like, so what is your inspiration behind it? And I was like, well, it's about love. It's pretty evident. And they were like, oh, but children don't know what love is. And I think that's so wrong because I mean, does anyone know what love is? Like, is there a clear definition of what love is? Or is it, you know, people are like, oh, you only find love in your marriage. For me, love is the most amount of affection or attraction you feel towards someone, and it's not defined. You can't define love. No one really knows what it is. So I feel like just because I'm younger than you doesn't mean I haven't felt some kind of love, right? So I feel like from that perspective, children or teenagers really do get told like, oh, you're so young. Also, I feel like right now a lot of adults that I'm talking to are kind of telling me like, oh, you guys are children, you don't, the pandemic, like why would it affect you, you guys are anyway, you don't have work, and like we are missing our entire teenage lives during the pandemic. And I'm again, I've had COVID, so I'm very happy, like I'm seeing what's going on right now. And for me, I'm very, like, speaking about this, I just want to say that I'm very, very happy that my problem is that I had, like, that my COVID was this bad, but not as bad as someone else's. And I'm very happy that my problem is as teenagers, and a lot of people is that, oh, I'm missing on our teenage lives. But I just wanted to say that, and not like, oh, I'm so sick and stuff like that. But, it is still like, just because we're children, we also have, like, because we're teenagers, we also have a lot of anxiety and struggling, like we're all struggling to deal with this. I don't think there's one teenager that's happy with what's going on around them, and I think it's affecting us more than anyone because this is our generation. Like we are the future. We're the ones who need to make the change. So I
Yeah.
think from that perspective, it's very like teenagers are being told like, oh, you're young and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. And when it comes to mental health, and if I'm going to be like, oh, but I'm going through so much right now, they're going to be like, but you're just a kid, you're not supposed to go through anything, you're supposed to have fun. And I feel the age factor is just so, I don't know.
I totally agree, and they don't realize how much we're going through because we are kids.
Correct, yeah. And lastly, what's your message to the teenagers of today who are thriving to take on the world and chase their dreams?
I just want to say that I say this a lot, but genuinely, right now, we only have each other. And we need to do whatever we can to kind of support each other. We need to put all our energies and strengths together and never, ever give up on your dream. Like, I haven't, and I don't think I ever will. But just know that self-love kind of spreads the most amount of love, so don't be afraid to put yourself first and do whatever you can to make yourself happy. I know sometimes when I'm taking a break from studying or from watching TV, I tend to feel really guilty. I'm like, oh my god, what am I doing? But just know that if that's something you need to make you happy, it is worth it. Everything you're doing in your life, if it makes you happy, it's 100% worth it. So just do it guilt-free and just please be secure and confident with whatever you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Alea. It was amazing to have you. And I'm sure that our listeners are now really motivated to just love themselves and don't are now going to shy away from being themselves. Thank you so much.